I just received a text from Isak. His chicken lasagna is a total disaster. And I received a second text from Nolita, and her bread, it's a total flop. So it's going to be an interesting day. Isak.
David, how are you doing?
Well, and you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I received a text from you. You're in a bit of a food fix.
I am, yeah. No, I tried to make chicken lasagna. It tastes horrible and it looks atrocious. But I think you should rather come and have a look for yourself.
Right, well, let's see what we can do.
Thank you.
Right. So, Isak, this is the lasagna.
Yes.
Interesting. A distinct flavor of cinnamon.
Well, that's my favorite spice.
I think the best is, let's start from the beginning. You show me what the process was that you made this dish, and interestingly, the recipe that you followed, because
Recipe? I just thought you put things and you layer it.
I think that explains why we've got to this situation. And, you know, looking at this, I think before we discuss this any further, the best is let's just go through the steps and we just write this off, pretend it didn't exist, and we work out how you cook the whole dish. But it's going to be a difficult task.
So what I've done is I put in the lasagna pieces first. So then I take the tomato sauce and I pour it over.
Whoa, Isak, let's stop. There's a fundamental three-part process to making a lasagna. We've got to start with the white sauce. So let me show you how to make the white sauce first.
Okay, so I started with butter.
About a tablespoon, you say? A tablespoon and a half.
Yeah, about
okay.
a tablespoon.
So the butter's going to start melting, correct?
Yep. So my next step is I put in milk.
Whoa! That's back to front once again. Now, the aim of milk and butter and flour is the gluten gets released in the flour and it melts into the butter, and then you add the milk and it thickens the milk. So that's the base of your white sauce. So let me show you how to make a white sauce. We'll take this off the stove. We'll discard this one. So we start again. Pot on, let it heat up a bit. Very importantly, the butter. So as I said, the butter will slowly melt in the pan, and you just want it to bubble in the bottom of the pan, like this. So a tablespoon and a half of butter. That goes in the pan.
Okay.
And you let this quietly sort of just melt away in the bottom of the pan. Now we're going to add our teaspoon of flour. Do you have a whisk? It's very important to whisk it in so it doesn't get lumpy.
Yes, this is something I use. This is my whisk.
A whisk?
Yes.
If you have a look at this, it's not going to work because you see this little point at the top here.
Yeah.
When you whisk, this is not going to come into contact with the flour, so this is going to be spinning around and misses everything. Let me show you what a whisk is. This is a whisk. All right.
Okay.
So now the next step is, I told you as the butter is bubbling and melting it away, so we add our tablespoon of flour. Now importantly, you've got to take this whisk and immediately you've got to whisk in all the little corners of the pot. Now you see, it's formed this lovely sort of gooey paste on the bottom of the dish.
Yes.
Now, here's your milk. So we're looking at about a cup of milk. You've got to make sure that everything is loosened, because otherwise you can get those blobs stuck around the pot, and what happens? It burns. So
okay.
Yeah. And as the milk warms and as the flour releases the gluten, so the milk's going to thicken. And very importantly, when you make a roux like this, it has to be cooked through, because if you don't cook it through, you get that floury taste in your mouth.
Oh, that explains it.
Does that?
Yeah.
Normally when you're making a white roux, it'll take about 5 to 10 minutes. You know, if I take the spoon, you can already see, you see it on the spoon itself, that's about the consistency that you want.
Yeah.
Because this is going to act as a binding agent. And that's why what happened in your dish, everything just cooked apart. The whole, there's nothing left of the dish. And then what we've got to do is we've got to take this off and move it to the side, because this has to cool now. Isak, the chicken, the tomato, the heart of the dish. Could you show me the chicken, how you chop the chicken?
Not really good with
Your knives?
Knife. Let me use it. So,
Interesting knife. That is a steak knife, and you're probably going to do yourself more damage than the chicken. Can I show you what a proper knife's about?
Yeah, please
It'll
do.
make your life easy.
Thank you.
Okay. This is a knife. Isak, let me introduce you to a knife. This is a chef's knife. It's got a nice little protective blade that drops down, so when you cut or chop, it protects your fingers, and nice and sharp.
Okay.
So when you use a knife, remember, it's a wrist action, not a whole arm action. It's just a wrist action. So, you know, if I had to cut up these chicken breast, you butterfly it. You cut it like this, you open it up,
Yeah.
and then you cut your slices of chicken like that. Right. The secret with a knife is a knife must become an extension of your hand. So hold it in your hand so that it's comfortable. You don't want to hold it too far back, otherwise the knife rocks. Just get it as part of your hand. And when you cut, just do a forward motion. So it's simple. Just let the knife work.
So do you take all the pieces together and then just...
Correct. You're already a lot better when you start. Just remember, lift that little finger. You don't want to lose it. There we go. That's much better. But slowly. There's no rush. There's no rush. Right, Isak, that should be enough for 6 to 8 portions. Now the next step.
Okay. So the next step is I cut up some onion
right.
and then I ground
Here's
it.
the onion. Okay, but what we're going to do is I'm just going to move this chopping board out the way, and fortunately I have another one for you, a nice little neat one. This chopping board is actually a bit high. This is about the right height. And your onion. You've learned. You will be a chef yet. Fingers out the way. All right, so let's go on to the next step now.
Okay. So I add some olive oil.
Isak, look at this. All you need is about a tablespoon of olive oil. So you're just lightly frying the onions in the olive oil. So put your whole onion in.
So then I put in a teaspoon of cinnamon.
Isak,
Yes.
this smells like a dessert. We've got to start again. A little bit of olive oil, and then we've got our chopped onions. I'm just going to take roughly half of it. That's ample. Now that this is frying off, we're going to add a little bit of garlic to this.
Can you put too much garlic in?
You can, for instance, the cinnamon, you can put too much of everything, and
Okay.
too much, rather add as you go instead of killing it with too much salt, too much pepper, too much garlic. Don't be heavy-handed, just be delicate. You know, it's a process of love, food. You know, you're right. What would be your next step?
I would have added the chicken.
No. I'm going to explain now. If you were doing a beef or some lamb lasagna or something like that, this process you would then add the meat.
Okay.
Now remember, chicken is incredibly delicate. So what you want to do here is, if you put the chicken in now, you're gonna destroy the dish. You want to taste the chicken.
Okay.
So we're going to leave the chicken aside. We're going to add the tomato paste, and then exactly what you used.
Yeah.
The shelled chopped tomato, which is perfect. I mean, your ingredients are 100% correct. Then remember, tomato is incredibly acidic. And in order to get a balance, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar.
Okay.
Because you're not using the chicken in the beginning, you need some chicken stock to enhance it. In a cup of hot water, you just add a stock cube. It's basically stock. You just have to add a cup of hot water with it. But here's a little something for you. So when you replicate this dish, you've got it ready. You drop it in the cup of boiling water. So you just slowly stir this. And then a bit of pepper. Like I said as well, you can add as the process cooks, because as these flavors grow and infuse, so you'll see, okay, it needs a bit more salt, needs a bit more pepper or whatever.
Okay.
And then for me now, the aromatic part of this is this fresh basil leaves. Basil has got such a scented aromatic smell. So, you know, these basil leaves, you just drop them in the pot like this, and they don't have to be too fine, they can be chunky, because these will cook away and they will release these lovely aromatic flavors into the sauce. So this sauce has to bubble away on medium heat, sort of 4 to 5 on your stove for 1 hour. Isak, smell that.
No, it smells wonderful.
So it's now a balanced sauce, and what we got to do now is the chicken that you originally wanted to put in, I've brought along a roast chicken that I've shredded. So the breast, the skin's on, because you want all of that for the flavor.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just tip this onto my cutting board, and all I'm gonna do is just roughly cut it. Because you want it chunky, it's gonna break up and cook in the dish itself. So we're gonna transfer this into sauce. Remember, just 10 minutes in the pot. and then the chicken, the flavors infused. Just give this a stir. It's like the sauce is ready. Where to from here?
Well, then I would assemble the whole step. I would take the chicken, put the chicken in.
Oh, are you going to show me how to do it? Or?
Yes, I can.
Okay, but that looks a bit scary. You want to tip the whole pot in?
Yes.
No. Okay, look here. In principle, you're correct.
Okay.
But what we've got to do is the roux that we made. Pass
Yes.
that here. Let me show you what to do here. You can see it's cooled and it's exactly like we wanted. It's congealed. So what this will do is this will hold the cheese layer and give it volume. What happened with yours is yours cooked and dissipated everywhere and it just disappeared. But I'm going to add another binding agent to this. I'm going to add 2 eggs.
Okay.
So I'm going to take these 2 eggs. I'm just going to crack in the whole egg. Then with this, now I'm going to add the cottage cheese and cream cheese. And then we'll do our cream cheese. Now we mix this up. That just mix it and you'll see it'll mix quite nicely as the egg starts to break. So this thing will get firmer and firmer. Cheese sauce is ready with the roux. Your tomato and chicken sauce is ready. Now I'm going to hand over to the last step, the assembly.
I'm really very nervous about this one.
I don't think you're the only nervous person here, but we've come a long way. Let's see how we end off.
So then I'll put in the lasagna. This is where I'm not sure. Should it be overlapping or not?
Well, I'm watching.
Okay, and then I'll start by adding chicken.
Well, I'm going to stop you right here. Okay. And I'll explain why I'm stopping you here. It's a delicate dish. It's got chicken in. These are rock hard. You need to blanch these for 8 minutes first to get them soft, and then we'll do the layer. So we'll quickly blanch these, and then I'll go through the process with you. And secondly, it's very important, have a layer at the bottom of the dish. Otherwise, this will burn in the oven. So you want a layer of fluid under this, so the fluid can bubble and cook away at this. Otherwise, this burns onto the dish. Let's take the lasagna. The pasta will be al dente.
You use all these big words, blanch, al dente, I have no concept of what that is.
Al dente. That is the Italian word for just slightly crispy and just before it's cooked.
Okay.
So you need this pasta to be at that stage because the cooking process in the oven must be 25-30 minutes.
Okay.
Otherwise the chicken is overcooked again.
Yes.
And blanch just means it's similar. You just blanch it is even quicker. Just drop it in the water and remove it. So Isak, after your 8 minutes, you've got your pasta sheets. They're nice and al dente, and we plonk them into cold water. And the reason why you're putting them in cold water is you want to immediately arrest the cooking process.
Okay, so what I would have done is to put this at the bottom, but you said there should be sauce at the bottom.
Correct. That's
I assume
brilliant. Well done.
you would put the chicken in there.
Perfect.
So not pouring it in.
I'm impressed.
I learn.
An honest student here. 2 scoops would be enough, and then just spread it. That's perfect.
So do I...
Layer of you can use your hands. That's nice and cool now.
No, yeah, right.
Put them the other way around.
Other way
Ways. Correct.
Like so.
That's correct. And you see now how pliable and easy they are to work with.
Yes.
What I would do is drain the water off as well because you're bringing too much fluid into here. So drain off all the cold water off that pasta.
Okay.
All right. Now what you do is your next layer of chicken again.
Chicken.
Yeah.
How thick do
Also
I put
just
it on?
2 and a bit spoons.
2 and a bit spoons.
So now you'll do the cheese sauce. That's next. And as you put it on, let me just demonstrate you. When you do the cheese layer, you just sort of want to move it across like that. So then you can just evenly glide your spoon over. Your next layer of lasagna. You know, if you think back of how you'd assembled yours, your process wasn't bad. It was just the knowledge and the method you were doing it and how you were using your ingredients.
Yeah.
So if you do something systematically and you make your 3 basic sauces together, or your three items, and assemble it in this order, you can't go wrong. If I classify this as one of the delicate lasagnas, in this category you'd get a vegetable lasagna, you can use salmon, things like that, you can use mussels, you can do lobster, I mean anything you can make. It's just, then instead of using a chicken stock, you'd make your seafood stock in the sauce.
Okay.
So there's that version. Then on your meat side, the heavier lasagna that cooks longer, there you've got your beef lasagna, you've got your lamb lasagna, and your venison, which I've made as well. I mean, you know, like in South Africa, venison, it's stunning. So those are all the versions of lasagna that you can get. This is just one sample that we're sharing here. And then we're going to cover all of this with this layer of cheddar cheese and mozzarella. To me, when I sprinkle the cheese on at the end of a dish, it's like my signature of approval. I'm happy with the dish. It's ready for the oven. 25, 30 minutes in the oven at about 180, and we'll see what comes out. Look at this. This is what a lasagna should look like. I think you've created a masterpiece here. Now we're going to try this out. Wow, look at these layers, juicy and succulent. Our dear friend that I arrived here today to see this. I mean, look at this. So Isak, what have you learned from this session today? Number one?
Except for that I shouldn't spend time in the kitchen, the white sauce.
The white sauce. Number two?
Two is the blanching of the pasta al dente.
Number three?
Number three is the sauce at the bottom, otherwise the pasta will burn.
Number four?
Is the layering of the sauces and the pasta.
If you always keep those 4 simple steps in mind, your lasagna will always be perfect. Isak, this afternoon's been a real pleasure. In parting, I have a little gift for you, an apron, now that you're a chef. Well done. And I'm off to sort out the next problem. Enjoy your lasagna with your guests tonight.
Thank you and good luck.
Oh, thanks, man. Cheers.
Bye.
Hi. How's it, man? How are you? Do you know where your Nolita stays?
Yes, just here.
All right, will you show me? Cool, man. Shot. So she's in this house just over here. Okay. Which way? Down to
the back, yeah.
in the back?
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Lolita, someone to see you.
Hi.
Lolita.
Yes.
Hi, I'm David. I received a text message from you. You got a little problem with your bread.
Yes. I want to make a normal bread.
Yeah.
But it come out, it's like tastes like a cake.
Okay.
It's sweet.
Can I come in and
Yes,
see?
please.
Let's start and we can see where I can help you. Right. So Lolita, this is the bread.
This is the bread.
It's definitely not. This is when I break it, I can smell the sweetness, and if I taste it, it's definitely cakey. It's like a cake. Show me how you make this bread, but in the meantime, can I have a seat
Yeah,
here?
grab a chair, grab a
let's,
chair.
let's sit around the table and,
Okay.
and you explain the process to me, and this way we're going to see. So, what do you start with?
I start with the flour.
Okay. Is this
Yeah.
normal cake flour?
It's a cake flour, yes.
Okay, right.
Normal one.
Okay.
If you do measurement,
No
it's-
measurements.
Yeah. Go like this.
Okay.
There we go.
So this is for your one loaf.
It's going to be 2 loaves.
2 loaves.
It's supposed to be 2
Okay.
loaves, yeah.
All right.
You know when you're staying with the boys.
The boys, okay.
Yeah.
And the sugar, that also is
Yeah, there's the sugar. That's the way it
quite
goes.
a bit of sugar you're putting in here.
There's a sugar. That was a salt.
That was
This-
salt?
Yeah. This
That
is
was a
the
lot
sugar.
of salt. That's a okay, but nothing's measured.
Yeah.
You just okay.
Yeah, that's why
And that, how much sugar do you put in there?
it's the sugar.
Half a cup. So what goes next, Nolita?
This is the driest. We
Okay.
measure it.
Okay,
Because if you don't measure
we've
it,
got a measurement finally.
yeah.
That's
If this one you
progress.
don't measure it, it's going to smell bad on your bread
Okay.
before you cook it.
All right.
So it's a must. You have to measure it. It goes like this, and put it down.
Okay. And what goes next?
It goes my 2 eggs.
2 eggs.
Yeah. And then we mix it.
Nolita, this is where the problem comes. You're basically making a cake here. Let's stop here. I'm going to put these ingredients aside and let's start from the beginning. I have some ingredients with me and I'm going to show you the proper process and a quick process to make the bread. I've brought a baking tin and I've got some self-raising flour which we normally use for bread. And this time when we do the recipe, from the beginning, we're going to measure it. There's a little cup on the floor here.
Yep.
Right. Now, I'm going to open the packet and I want you to measure out. I want of that cup 3.5 cups of flour. But wait, whoa. And you know why your bread didn't rise? Because when you're using flour, you want to sift the flour. So I have a little sieve here. So put the flour in there. So pour the 1 cup and we'll slowly sift it. Next cup, same method. Okay, that's perfect. Now what we're going to add to this is we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. Just 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, I'm going to add something else to this. I've brought a tin of sweet corn with me. The important thing is when you use sweet corn in a bread like this, it must be the sweet corn, the whole kernel in brine, because you want the loose pieces. You don't want any sauce, because if you put any extra sauce in this bread, what happens when the bread cooks, it's so watery and runny, it won't rise and always be raw in the middle. And you'll see the fluid in this tin. I want to pour all of this fluid off so that these sweet corn kernels are dry as can be. So I'm just going to squeeze here to get all the moisture out. So Nolita, the secret of any bread to get it to rise and be fluffy and light, you need rising agents. And in this bread, I'm going to use 2. The first is bicarbonate of soda. I'm going to use that because I'm adding corn to the bread, and the corn is going to make it a bit heavier and denser. I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon of this to the mixture. And remember what you did wrong. Every time you put your dry ingredients in the dish, you then added the eggs. You must mix up your dry ingredients first. So you might have one side of your bread is full of bicarb and yeast and the other side has none. Now, the second rising agent is a beer. If you had to open a beer, a warm beer, it's going to foam everywhere. Now, with that in the flour, it'll just lift the flour and get the bread to rise. And we're going to add this to the ingredients. So what you can do is you can help me with this. If you pour the beer in, just slowly pour it in so I can get it nicely mixed in. Okay? You can pour all the rest in. Right, there we go.
So we don't use any beer. We have to use the
No, it doesn't matter what beer you want. You can use whatever beer is available in the shebeen. But I mean, you get that lovely beer smell. And the thing with the beer is the alcohol cooks off and it's a healthy bread. Now, the sweet corn. If you can slowly pour the sweet corn kernels in as I mix, you can see how this is really aerated. Look at the big bubbles in it. And it's rising. And the sweet corn, you can see it's giving texture to the bread. So Nolita, what happens now is you take the bread, you've got a preheated oven at 220, in there for about 15 minutes until the bread starts to go brown on the top. Then you drop it to about 180 and you cook it for just under an hour. So the total bread is going to take you about an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's so simple. Look at that.
Yeah,
Lovely. So now what we're going to do is you crust the top of this with soft butter, and the butter cooks and you get this nice salty crusty flavor on the top. So we smear a lot of butter on top. You're going to get invaded here with people when they smell this. So we'll pop it back in the oven. There we are. We're nearly there. Just another 5 more minutes. That's all we need. You can see how the butter has melted in. You got that lovely little salty crust on top. So let's slowly tip this out. I want to show you one thing with bread. Is I'm going to tip it onto my hand, okay? And I want you to listen here. You hear that lovely hollow drum beat? That means the bread is perfect. Yeah. You ready to taste? This bread is absolutely perfect. It's soft and crunchy and the crust just crumbles. But before I allow you to taste it, what were the 4 points that you learned today? What was the first one?
The beer.
Correct.
I never know the beer. You can cook it,
Right.
bake it.
Second point?
Second point, the corn.
All right. Third point?
Third point, self-raising flour. And definitely
Lastly?
no yeast.
No yeast.
No yeast at
Okay.
all.
No, that's superb. Lolita, I'm proud of you. I think what you've achieved today is this is going to end up being a bakery in this area. So here's your taste. Tell me what you think of it. And I'll have a bit myself. I think we should go out and we should share this with the little ones outside, all the kids outside down the street and that. Let
with
them
my
taste with
neighbours.
it. Yeah, with your neighbors. They're going to be proud of you.
Hi guys. Nandi nipe naso song mntanam tata. Ke Nkosi.
Nolita, it's been a real pleasure today and thank you. You were brilliant. I want to leave you with a little gift, a book of mine. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
And remember, if any of you guys have a problem in your kitchen, please text me. I'll help you sort it out and I'll see you next time.